Hello and welcome. My name is Carrie Harper. I am the author of the book Flatten My Postpartum Belly, which is a best-selling book on Amazon. And that thrills me to say, and it's one of those unbelievable statements that you don't know if you'll ever actually say, and I'm saying it. And I thought that by today I would have my paperback copy, but it's not here yet. I know how it is. Like, I love my delivery people. It is December as I'm recording this, and December in the United States is like nonstop delivery trucks everywhere that you look. I know that they're working really hard, and I didn't just order one, I ordered a box of them. So it might take a couple of days for it to get here. But I have seen my paperback copy as a friend of mine brought two of them to me this week. You might have seen my picture with China. And she brought two of them for me to sign. And it was a really beautiful experience to see my book in paper. I mean, it's really cool that it was on digital first, and a digital book is a wonderful thing, but there's something about it being on paper that just really felt really amazing and really real. I've always been a reader and a huge fan of all kinds of books. So just that my name is on a book and it's my work, and it literally is my work and what I do, is thrilling to me. So I thank you for joining my little launch party today, celebrating the paperback launch. If you don't have your copy yet, either digital or paperback, they're both available on Amazon. And on my Zoom call right now, Christine is with me, and she writes the foreword for the book as well. Thrilled that she could be here, and she did a beautiful job on her foreword. And she is also an author of novels. She is a fiction author. So check out Christine's book series as well. It's amazing. My 13-year-old daughter, almost 14, oh my gosh, is a huge science fiction fan buff. So she loves Christine's work, and I'm thrilled that I can pass that along to my daughter. So if you don't know anything about Flatten My Postpartum Belly and the work that I do, I actually have been helping people with their core strength for several years. I'm going to read you a little bit about how that all happened today. And it's progressed through the years. I mean, just as I'm a teacher, I'm also a student. And even yesterday, I came up with a new strengthening exercise with some of my clients. And even today, something new occurred to me, and there's a new lesson that I'm going to give you today. So I'm continuing to learn and develop, and really excited that the main method that I've been using for all these years is now in a book for people to follow. And tucked inside of the book are these links for videos of me practicing with you. So if you are reading the book, or if you're about to read the book, don't just skim through it, please. I mean, there's sections of it that are stories that you don't need to linger on, but the sections on you working on yourself, I'm begging you and pleading with you to take your time to do the practice and learn what I'm teaching you, because I can teach all day long, but until you absorb and feel on the inside of you what I'm trying to tell you in the book and in the videos, it's still not going to be very effective for you. If you are one of those people that really needs my eyes, my ears, my hands, my direction, and or if you are one of those people that doesn't just struggle with diastasis recti, but other things in your fit life, because I help all kinds of people with all kinds of problems, whether it's weight loss, whether it's a hormonal imbalance, whether it's an autoimmune, whether it's a chronic illness, whatever. There's all kinds of reasons that we can be struggling. And that's why I offer a personal training package, so that if you do need my additional help outside of this book and these videos, and you want a curriculum directly from me for you, wherever you are and wherever you're going, then I would recommend that you send me a note or a message about that, and we can go over how it would be structured for you in your very busy life and in my very busy life. But I love my personal training clients. I spend a lot of time on them, a lot of energy. I recreate things all the time for them, adjust things all the time for them. It's something that I take very, very seriously, and something I've been doing for a really long time. I know I look young. I know, but I've been doing this for over 20 years. Shocking. That was being sarcastic. But yes, so if that is something that you need, desire, are thinking about, then just send me a note. My next group that will be going through a system with me is January 7th, and it's right around the corner. I can't even believe it's halfway through December today. Have to make sure I drink water. Oh, here's somebody looking to come into the room. Come on in. Okay, and welcome. And welcome, my Facebook friends. Thank you also for getting on this Facebook Live to hang out with me for a few minutes. Make sure you tell a friend that you're watching and listening to this, and then they can pop on too. And if something occurs to you or to them that they want to ask me about while I'm talking, add it to the chat, add it to the questions, and I will get to the questions at the end today. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into, unfortunately I don't have the paper book as I was mentioning, I'm going to go into my document and I'm going to read to you chapter 2 if I can get through it. So because I love you, I think that it's important that you know who I am and where I came from. And my story is not rainbows and unicorns. It's a pretty tough story. And it's probably not what you expected to hear from a fitness professional, but that's why it's in the book. You need to know fitness people that are in this field, we're not perfect. We struggle, but it's the struggle that brings us to the answers. It's asking all the questions that brings us closer to the answers. Okay. So here we go. If you have your book, you can read along with me or just sit back and listen. Maybe just kind of take this in for a minute. This is chapter 2 of Flatten My Postpartum Belly. It's called My Story. This is from me, first person. I have been a fitness professional since 1994. I am an expert fitness trainer. I have taught all kinds of fitness and practices from boot camp to Pilates. And in 2004, I became a certified pre- and postnatal fitness expert. I also got pregnant with my first child in 2004. Can you remember 2004? There was no Facebook, no Instagram, no YouTube. Mommy blogging was relatively new. There was Parenting Magazine and babycenter.com. Those were my lifelines. I read everything and saw that in order to have the healthiest baby, it was my job to be the healthiest mom. Healthiest? No problem, I thought. I'm going to blow that one out of the water. So I spent 9 months eating the best foods, reading all the articles, and exercising every day. I continued teaching class, even boot camp and Pilates. I felt great. My friends marveled at my svelte physique. I'm naturally very small, if you didn't know that about me. I was idolized by other pregnant women as I jumped around on the step at the gym, wore my gym tights, and even wore little tight shirts. I was proud of my tiny frame and growing belly. People would stop me everywhere I went, including fitness conferences, and tell me they were shocked when I turned around because from the back I didn't look pregnant. They considered it a compliment. I considered it a compliment, but I noticed something. When I did my abdominal work, yes, I was still doing abdominal work, my abs made a bit of a cone at the top with a squishy center. I remember telling other instructors about it who shrugged it off and told me to be grateful my ankles weren't swelling. When I asked my OB-GYN what types of fitness were okay, he said to keep doing whatever I had been doing, that I didn't have any restrictions, and that keeping my weight low was the ultimate goal. I took my Lamaze classes like a good mommy. I knew how to breathe correctly and didn't think much of the class, but I went through the motions. I brought a magazine to class the day they showed the cesarean video because that wasn't going to be me. In fact, I'd been cornered by a local man the week before who insisted that I needed to make sure I wasn't going to have a cesarean because way too many lazy women are having surgery to avoid doing a little work. I hear you. It's amazing what people will say to pregnant women. My daughter tried to get here on December 20th. I was having strong contractions that night and stayed awake quietly, trying not to bother anyone. The next day, I told my husband, Eric, that I thought I might be having real contractions, but that my doctor told me not to come in until they were 5 minutes apart. So I laid on the couch all day with the worst possible contractions so bad, my whole body contracted. Finally, by that afternoon, Eric had had enough of me saying no, and he took me to the hospital in our small town. The nurses didn't fluff around. They saw I was in pain and rushed me into a room. There, we proceeded to watch Oprah and Seinfeld for hours as we waited for Jade to move along. She didn't. She was face up. Contractions were coming steadily now, and she was not moving. Eventually, in the late night, early morning of December 21st to 22nd, I was wheeled back to have a cesarean. I tried desperately not to until my doctor told me it was about to be a life-threatening ordeal for Jade and myself. A few minutes and some vomit later, the doctor yelled, "It's a cone head," as he pried my poor baby from my birth canal. She was a cone head from hours of being stuck. Jade and I stayed in the hospital for a couple of days while they carefully watched her. She had trouble keeping her body temperature up. I was struggling to move, needing more help than I thought I should. I really did not consider that I had just been through a pretty major procedure. I figured that because cesareans are common, that the recovery should be easy. Just a couple of hours after giving birth, the nurse pulled my catheter. I struggled for hours to go to the bathroom until my doctor came in and saw that I needed to be recathetered. Fun. I also remember being helped down the hallway to see my new baby through the window. I remember the nurses working overtime to help me with the baby. We finally got to spend an hour or two together as I sang Christmas carols to her in my arms. We finally came home. She was an awful baby. I can say that now because I had the kindest, funniest, most non-awful teenager ever. It was like she had to get all of it out in the first 3 months. She didn't have a little afternoon colic. She had a 3-month non-stop scream fest. I thought for sure we were all going to lose our minds. And in the midst of all that chaos, there was me. No longer this svelte, adorable pregnant lady. I stared at a misshapen person. She didn't even resemble me. Not only was she engorged, but there was something weird about that belly. I still looked pregnant. Weeks and months later, my navel looked like a pig's nose. The skin on my belly looked like the wrinkled face of a Shar-Pei. I struggled to manage my household and new baby and got angry with myself for caring about myself. I would go for days without bathing or eating, just holding a screaming baby and trying my best to soothe her. Finally, Jade woke up one day and smiled. That was it. For her, days would now be sunny. What were long, painful days and nights were now starting to even out. She slept now and then, so I slept now and then. She and I got into a routine. As I got into a routine, I noticed nothing was changing in my midsection. I still looked pregnant. I remember a friend looking at me and saying, "What is wrong with you? What is that?" He was talking about my protruding abdomen. I was thinking the same thing. What is this? I started asking my family. I got blank stares. "You just had a baby," they would say. I asked friends. "Don't worry about it," they would say. "You'll be fine. You're a trainer." I asked members of my fitness community. "You just need to strengthen your abs again. You'll be good as new." With my staples still in, I started doing double leg lifts. As soon as I was able, I was running with the jogger stroller. I didn't wait for anyone's clearance. I was going to be me again. I returned to the gym and started teaching. I hit the mats with every core move, sit-ups, planks, twists, anything to get it back. Nothing worked. I felt worse with everything I tried. I was desperately searching my periodicals and websites. There was nothing that looked like me. There was nothing that described what I was going through. There was no information about core and abdominal health postpartum. Nothing. Finally, one day, it stared me in the face. It was a tiny sentence on the last page of Fit Pregnancy magazine with an asterisk. There was a font around an 8, and the article had been about postpartum fitness. Asterisk. Some women with extreme core weakness may have a condition called diastasis recti. Seek a physician's help. Extreme core weakness? Who the heck is that? That is not me. I have the strongest core of anyone I know. So I left that article and kept searching. But something about that article bugged me. I started searching the phrase on the internet. There was very little available, and most articles were about babies with diastasis recti. Finally, I found something that explained that diastasis recti was a condition that could happen in pregnancy and had to do with the muscles in the core. This article, too, claimed that it was caused by muscle weakness. It took me a long time to connect those dots because these stories did not seem to apply to me, though they described my symptoms. So I did what anyone else would do. I asked my doctor. Keep in mind, I had seen him many times since I had had Jade, and he had never said a thing about my belly protruding. "Oh yeah," he said, "you have the worst diastasis I have ever seen." The man had been in medicine for like 40 years. "I'll refer you to a surgeon." My head spun. A surgeon? The answer to my problem was a surgeon? Oh no. But ladies, I trusted my doctor, right? Our doctor tells us something and we believe it. So I believed at that moment in time, right then and there, that I had something that needed surgical correction. This was the same doctor who told me to make no modifications to my fitness while I was pregnant, and that released me to do any and all forms of exercise at 8 weeks postpartum. The surgeon told me that it would take 2 surgeons to correct my problem. I had a complete separation of the rectus abdominis muscle and an umbilical hernia. I believed him too and set up an appointment to see a plastic surgeon. The plastic surgeon indicated that he was the answer to all I was looking for, and that when I was done having children, he and his friend would repair my abdomen. I would be as good as new, only better, because he's that good. My life would be normal again, and I could get back to the things I loved again. Please note, it wasn't just aesthetic to me. I missed being strong in my core. I missed being able to hang from the monkey bars or do somersaults or things you don't even realize are core activities. I wanted my strength back. I was desperate, and I believed him. Years went by. We knew we wanted one more person in the family. I knew I wanted one more child, but I wasn't having a period. I went to see a chiropractor, Dr. Melissa Vrazel, who at the time was practicing in Angleton, Texas. Looking at my x-ray was quite telling. My spine had lost all of its curve. I had been trying so hard to hide my belly for so long that I had altered the muscles around my spine. Because my spine was then stick straight, every step I took was like a jackhammer into my lower back, causing not only back pain, but decreasing energy flow to my ovaries, slowing my hormones and keeping me from having a period. On that day, I had a sudden light bulb moment. It's all connected. I learned a lot from my chiropractor about posture, alignment, and how the spine and muscles work together to improve every system in the body. These are lessons I never forgot and would come in handy as I started working with other women again. For a month, my chiropractor worked on me. If you're reading along with me and I did not change my to me, I apologize. Typo. Worked on me with spinal adjustments, acupuncture, massage, and supplements. 1 month later, I had a period. A month after that, I became pregnant with Cora. Cora was a very different pregnancy. I didn't gain any extra weight, but I was terribly sickly. I had cold after cold and issue after issue. I was uncomfortable, and I knew that I had no core stability holding myself together. I felt like I was falling apart, and still I taught school, elementary music at the time, and fitness when I could muster the strength. Cora was delivered via planned cesarean. She was also an awful baby, but by this time I knew the drill. Eric and I worked in tandem with our crying, angry baby and our adorable, happy to be a big sister preschooler. She, like her sister, took about 3 months to get it all out of her anger and then became the happiest baby on the block, making all of our lives easier. I took one last shot at healing my diastasis through someone's system that I bought online, the only system I could find in 2009. I was a failure. I didn't get it. I didn't understand what I was supposed to be working on, and I failed. A trainer with all these years of training couldn't grasp the principles in this program. 9 weeks later, I gave up on that system and decided I would make a surgical appointment. At the same time, my father was getting increasingly sick. My dad had mesothelioma from working in a shipyard for a short time. My kids needed all of me, and my dad was dying. I needed to get surgery so that I could be there for everyone, so I thought. In June 2010, Eric drove me to Houston Methodist Hospital at something like 4 a.m. On this day, I was going to be repaired by 2 surgeons, as we had discussed. The same day, we were expecting a phone call. My dad would find out if there was a last treatment out there to help him or if he was out of options. The surgeon started marking my body with cut here and designs across my hips and abdomen. I started getting dizzy. This was the moment I realized that this was not a quick outpatient procedure. I looked like I was going to be cut in half in a magician's box. I was afraid. But I shut down all of my second and third thoughts and was wheeled down the hall for a 6-hour ordeal. When I woke up, I was suffocating. I literally thought I was dying. I was gasping for air, and because I was coming out of a drug-induced stupor, I literally thought I was in a coffin. I heard someone tell me to take deep breaths. I was trying. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe. I muttered for help, and she just kept telling me to breathe. In and out of consciousness, I heard Eric's voice. "I'm here," he said, and he sounded worried. I don't know how long it was before I was finally in my room and able to see, hear, speak, and somewhat shallow breathe. I still didn't know why I couldn't get a breath in. I was in that bed, propped up because I couldn't lay flat yet, when the phone rang. "How is he?" I asked my husband. "Fine." Eric said he's going to be fine. I knew he was lying. I could hear it in his voice, but there was nothing I could do, so I said nothing. My father was going to die. Then came the time that I had to move. Moving my arms felt like I was pulling my chest apart. I had to use what I could to scoot to the side of my bed and then use my hands to move my legs. It was like my legs had been completely torn off my body. I had doll's legs. It took my husband and a nurse to help me get to the bathroom and back. I was shocked at the fact that I felt nothing below my ribs. Nothing. Until the pain kicked in. And then it was extreme pain, but I was still unable to move my legs. I was in the hospital for 2 days, 2 miserable soup days. I thought I was going to die every time I moved, breathed, coughed, or especially laughed. That was dangerous, being in the room with my husband, who softens every situation with humor and who absolutely refused to leave my side. But I was finally cleared to go home for my poor husband and in-laws to take care of. I had no idea I was going to be an invalid, but there I was in the lazy boy recliner, unable to do anything. My children just looked at me and had to get everything from the other adults in the house. I was wearing a garment that hugged my abdominal wall and pelvis together, and I was not allowed to take it off at all. Drains stuck out of my abdomen that we had to empty and clean every couple of hours. No bathing allowed. My husband happily took on all of it. He took care of the kids and the house, worked and carried me to and from the hospital every day. The drains eventually came out. Still no bathing. The garment became a shorter one. Still no bathing. It was Texas in July. No bathing. For 6 weeks. 6 weeks. You can imagine. I struggled to stand up and to move. I started fighting. Every fiber of my being was wanting to stand up and fight and be myself again. My dad was dying and my family needed me. Finally, I was released from the doctor. No, I was not assigned a physical therapist or given any real further instructions. I was told to ease myself back into exercise. How did easing myself into exercise go? 4 months later, I could stand up straight with a lot of effort. 9 months later, I could hop. 1 year later, I could do a really bad, really painful sit-up. 3 years later, I could do a real sit-up. 1. I became my own trainer in many ways, which I guess is how I ended up being here with you. My first self-therapy was learning how to breathe, then to lay flat on my back, then how to sit up, lie down, and stand up without hurting myself. Slowly, how to add strength back to not only my core, but all of me that had been terribly weakened. And in the midst of it all, my father died. I was by his side reading to him when he passed, and I stayed with my family in Virginia for a week while Jade started her first week in kindergarten. All of it was emotionally horrible, which didn't make the physical pain any less. Later on in 2011 and 2012, I decided I was not going to go silently into the night of weakness and pain. I started digging into my archives of teachers and materials from the best therapeutic practices I had ever experienced, yoga and Pilates. And I went back through my notes with my chiropractor. I started really training myself like I was training someone who had come back from any other kind of injury or surgery. I used a lot of self-talk. What can I feel and not feel? What changes when I move this part? How does my core feel when I do this? Is this movement helpful or stressful? Is this movement going to help me move forward or hurt me? It was a total study of how my mind and body were reconnecting. It was an internal eye watching carefully every movement. It was the constant question, why? I started to discover the things that were making me stronger were not the types of training that I had been taught in my certifications. They were not what I had been told by my industry. The things that were working were the simple, small movements, the constant focus on body awareness, and the constant attention to how I was really feeling. Amazingly, I hadn't considered this before. My before life was very much about going heavy, hard, and strong. Now, my fit life was about restoring my mind and body together. It was about allowing myself to feel physically, mentally, and emotionally. And that was the hardest work that I have ever done. I slowly made my way back to the fitness center and back to my fit life, which was never the same again. The process made me stronger, made me a stronger human and a better trainer by a lot. My new practices made my new fit life more efficient and more thoughtful. Little did I know that this was my calling and that I would soon be using the same procedure to help rehabilitate many others who had just felt like I once had. That was chapter 2, my story. So as you can hear from my story is not typical, but really when it comes down to it, nobody's story is really typical. And out of all of that, as I go into in chapter 3, out of all of that is how I started developing my method in helping others. And when I first developed this method in helping others, all I knew was that it helped me, and all I hoped was that it helped somebody else alleviate pain or feel better. And what I found was that it was healing people. Well, the method would help them heal themselves because it's really not me. It's the method. And once somebody can practice the method and find it within themselves, that's when healing occurs. And that was a major, major breakthrough in my life. And not only that, not only was it helping people feel better, it was helping them heal their diastasis and other issues. I mean, there's people that have come to me with all kinds of pain from many different areas of the body, and I use the same groundwork with them. And what's amazing is that because everything is all connected, I can help that person learn how to heal themselves too. It's truly an amazing blessing that came out of a pretty tough ordeal. I mean, there's people that have gone through far worse, of course, but that messy middle section when I couldn't walk and I, thought that I was never going to be able to do anything again, that was tough stuff. So I am really blessed that all of this has even been shown to me so that I can be the teacher for others, so that I can take the information. What I do is I take information, I try it on, right? I turn it around in my head and on my own body and with myself. And then I am the teacher. I just bring it forth, and then that person also has to absorb it from where they are. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of a different kind of lesson today, because here's what is interesting. When somebody first comes to me, they talk about their diastasis first, and then we start going through different sections of the body, and that's when, oh, well, this hurts. This is super tight. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize how tight that was. Those things always come up. Like our first session looks like that. Like, let's look at your alignment. Wait a minute, this part of your alignment's off. How does this feel? Ooh, that hurts. Oh, that's tight. And then I'll say, do you ever have pain here? Do you ever have pain there? And they're like, yeah, actually, yeah. So because of my background, I know how the different muscles are connected. And because of learning different protocols, then I can address the different issues that are all really connected. So I want you to look at some areas of your body with me today, and let's discover if we're experiencing tightness or pain. And then I'm going to show you a couple of methods to help relieve that. Does that sound good? That sound good? Facebook land? Okay, here we go. Thank you for hanging with me for this long. It's 2:39. I didn't expect it to go this long. Yes, I've got my Christmas behind me. You're getting the Christmas episode of Carrie Fit. I'm going to stand somewhere where hopefully everybody can see. Let's see if I can get both cameras lined up here. How dare somebody call me? Like, just kidding. They didn't know. Okay, so standing in your best possible posture and alignment. Let's start. Actually, do this for me. Put your back against a plain, flat wall. Put your shoulder blades all the way flat against that wall and your hip joints against that wall. Are you okay so far? Because that's the beginning. Can we get our shoulder blades flat and down against a flat surface, against a wall? Okay, then palms down. Start raising your hands up over your head and keep those shoulders against the wall. Now, at some point, if there's a shoulder imbalance or something structurally going on with the shoulder will leave the wall, or the top of your back, you'll feel the top of your back push forward and your ribs push out. So trying to get all the way up over your head without any of that happening, that's a really, really functional shoulder. And if you have any impingement anywhere in there at all, it happens, folks. It happens. It's just tightness that happens in the shoulder. But what happens when there's tightness in the shoulder is that this happens. The head of the shoulder comes forward, right? Which pushes the ribs down into the abdominal cavity, which then pushes the belly out, which causes back pain. And all of those things are a big series of events. So diastasis recti will continue to be a problem if that shoulder is out of place. I know. So here's what I want you to practice if you're having issues with your shoulder. This is a flat band, okay? And I'm having a little bit of lax in the middle of this flat band. And if Kimberly's watching, this is a lesson that we did yesterday, just a little bit of her lesson, but an important one, and one that makes people a little uncomfortable. So the first time you do this, you'll make it, breathe through it. Start bringing your hands up. You're not against the wall anymore. Stand away from the wall for this, all the way up. Keep your shoulders down, keep your shoulders back, pull the band all the way around to the back of you. How did that feel? For most people, the first time, it's super uncomfortable, right? Or your shoulders do all kinds of funky stuff to get the band to be able to go over your head. Like they'll do this, or they'll go like this. So I want you to keep your shoulders down, flat, and pull that band all the way around, or do the best that you can, and all the way back around. If you're struggling in this area, it's called shoulder flossing. We're flossing out the area that gets super tight. And just like your dentist is going to tell you to floss every day, Carrie's going to tell you to floss every day too. Okay, until that shoulder eases up and can sit back in the shoulder joint, not forward out of the shoulder joint, in the shoulder joint. Okay, are you with me so far, shoulder people? Number two is this issue right here. This guy right here, that stretches from the bottom of your abdominals down into your thigh, okay? The psoas. Guess what else he does? He wraps around into your lower back. So if you have this going on, and this part of your hip is ahead of this part of your hip because this area is short, you also have lower back pain. You're pushing your weight into your lower back, and the psoas is inflexible. So a lot of people that sit a lot or just are naturally short here, they're going to have that super short psoas muscle, and it's going to affect the rest of the chain. Again, you've got this happening here, you've got big booty, and so then what happens here is the tummy is sort of falling out. It's sort of like that, and gravity is working against you, and then it's super hard to pull the tummy up and where it belongs. So your goal is to go from here to here, pressing down through the base of the spine, and then we've got the top of the pelvis over the hip joint. Like, how do I get that to loosen up? I'm so super tight right here, Carrie, that I cannot get the hips to go forward. So here's what you do. I'm going to adjust this so I can maybe be closer to the ground. We're going to start in a low runner's lunge, and a low runner's lunge is relative. Let me move Facebook too so you guys can see. It's going to be relative to your body. So when I say low runner's lunge, I might be all the way down on the ground, and you might be up here somewhere. But what you want to try to do is make sure the hip joints are pointed forward, that your knee is over your foot in the front, and that you have a really long leg in the back. And you want to push back to that back heel and really straighten out this leg. That should really lengthen the front of this thigh nicely. You can keep your hands on your leg, or you can put a hand on a block or on a piece of furniture that's steady and firm. Once your psoas starts to sort of loosen up, then you're going to set that knee down, and you're going to continue to drive the hips forward. Then level 3 is picking your back toe up, still pressing the hips forward. And then level 4, you can wrap this band around your foot and ease it even more forward. Do that on both sides. And anytime that you do a stretch like that, you're going to want to take quite a bit of time. And it actually works much better if you'll do the stretches after your muscles are warm. If you try to do deep stretches while your muscles are cold, then they're not going to be very flexible. That makes sense, right? They're cold, so they're tight, and they're trying to warm you up, and so they're pulling in even tighter. And once you warm up, they can release much more. So I always go into my deeper stretches at the end of the process that I'm working on with someone. So it's at the end of our training session, or it's at the end of our practice, or it's at the end of class, or whatever. Then we can take the 20 to 30 seconds that it really takes to just ease that muscle to release and get longer. And I'm telling you, it's a practice, but if I can do that low lunge, you can do it. I was so short and so tight for so long, and it was so hard, but I practiced and practiced. And the same thing with my spine. I tell people all the time, it took me 4 months to stand up straight. 4 months. I was looking at the ground for 4 months. Once I finally got up straight, it took me a really long time to get up straight, and then extending the spine, forget it. It took me years to extend my spine. I remember being in the pool with my kids when they were really little, and trying to show Jade how to do a backflip where you go backwards, extend your spine, and roll around under the water. And my spine was stick straight. So I went back and banged my head on the floor of the pool because I had no idea that I wasn't extending my spine. I wasn't able to. It's huge, long practice for me. That is our lesson for today. Audrey, I am so sorry that you couldn't get into the Zoom. You might be my caller, though. I do have a phone on my Zoom call. So I'm glad that you're here and listening. Let's see. I don't think there were any questions today. Y'all don't have any questions for me? Okay. My winner for a free signed copy, the paper copy signed and sent to you today is my friend Charisse. Thank you for getting on, Charisse. And as soon as I have those paper copies, I will be signing one and sending it to you. I'm grateful to you for getting on this call today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for working on yourself. Thank you for being who you are. I love you. Let me know how I can help you in the future. Share this video with a friend. It will also be going on YouTube. So it's on Facebook Live. It will be on YouTube. Sharing is caring. There's someone that needs to know. So share the information. Thanks. Have a great day. Merry Christmas.